First off, I want to make it clear that this video is sponsored by AWD IT and ASUS. Thank you to those guys for making these videos possible and keeping me making videos on a Monday, Wednesday and Friday basis. So make sure you go check out both of them in the description down below, and you can check out either of the bundles that I'm talking about in this video in the links in the description down below. So now that we've talked about that, what are we actually talking about in this video? Well, I've got 9600K with an ASUS Z390 strix-f board and 16 gigs of RAM and a Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo cooler, as well as an AMD Ryzen 2600X with actually a Wraith Prism cooler. That's not stock, but we'll talk about that later, as well as the same 16 gigs of 3000 MHz RAM and an ASUS B450 strix-f as well. We're going to be comparing those two in terms of their performance, in terms of gaming, and in terms of productivity, and we're also going to be talking about the price and why you might pick one over the other. So I think we should start off with the spec of both of these chips. The Intel chip is the newest, so let's go through that one first. It is a 6-core and 6-thread i5 CPU with a base clock of 3.7 GHz and a boost clock all the way up to 4.6, which is pretty impressive. In terms of its all-core boost, I was seeing it somewhere around 4.1 to 4.2 GHz, although it does depend on the application. And then we have a 95 watt TDP and a current selling price of about £280 on its own. In terms of the 2600X, that one is also a 6-core CPU, but it's actually a 12-thread CPU as it has SMT or simultaneous multi-threading enabled. You have a 3.6 GHz base, so slightly lower, and a 4.2 GHz boost, which again is also a bit lower, and we're looking at a 4 to 4.1 GHz all-core boost here, so fairly similar in terms of all-core, but at the same time a single-core boost really is not as high. And then we still have a 95 watt TDP, but a selling price of only £200. So now that you know the spec, let's take a look at the gaming and real-world and productivity performance numbers. So starting off with Cinebench, on the single-threaded side we have a 23% margin win for Intel, but on multi-threaded we actually have a 21% margin win for AMD, which is going to be pretty interesting. In terms of ASUS Realbench, we have a 13% margin win for AMD here, and Realbench uses Handbrake, 7-zip, Luxmark and a few other things to basically just benchmark a system and give you a score. In terms of 3D Mark, we're looking at just shy of an 18% win for AMD here, which is also pretty impressive. And then on the Blender side of things, we're looking at a 13% faster system with the AMD chip over the Intel chip. Now in terms of Premiere Pro, this one likes clock speed more than it likes core, so Intel wins here by a 10% margin, which is always kind of surprising, and there's a few caveats to this that I'll talk about in a second. But either way, in terms of gaming results, I can only assume from my previous testing that this number for AMD is wrong, but that's all I could get, so we're looking at a 38% faster system for Intel. In terms of PUBG, we're looking at 10% faster, which is a lot more reasonable and a lot more what I expect. And in terms of Fortnite, we're looking at basically the same, with 11.5% faster on the Intel side over the AMD, although neither are, absolutely terrible numbers. So I should expect Intel wins hands down in basically all of the single thread heavy tasks, even Premiere Pro, which is kind of a surprise for most people, but if you know Premiere Pro that well, you'll know that it cares more for clock speed and often single core performance than it does for multi-threaded. And I would also mention that there's a caveat here that this was all just CPU rendering only, not with your graphics card's acceleration. So with most people you'll have that graphics card acceleration enabled, and so when that is enabled, the difference between them is basically negligible, so that's not really a big factor. But when you take a look at the single-threaded performance, especially in stuff like games, PUBG and Fortnite for example, you're looking at about 10% faster for the Intel side, and again on the synthetic side with Cinebench you're looking at 23% faster. GTA 5 is something that I've found just generally pretty anomalous in all of my testing. It seems to do very, very badly with AMD chips, just in general at 1080p, and while most people would say, oh, it's just bottlenecking, if you have a look at the PUBG and Fortnite results, it's really hard to say that that's just a bottleneck, considering both of those show only a 10% difference versus nearly 40% difference with GTA 5. And when it comes to multi-threaded stuff though, that's where AMD wins hands down right now. this is kind of crazy, really. You're looking at, again, actually about a 20% performance improvement. In Cinebench, you're looking at anywhere between 10 and 20% performance improvements for real-world stuff like Blender, and even the synthetic stuff like 3D Mark Firestrike and ASUS Realbench. So overall, you're looking at a fairly easy conclusion to draw here, but let's talk about the bundled pricing first. Now, AWD IT, again, who are sponsoring this video, so thank you to those guys, are selling this bundle for £714. That is a pre-overclock bundle at 4.8 GHz. This one wasn't overclocked, or at least for my testing it wasn't overclocked anyway, to give a fair comparison between the two chips themselves. Of course, you can overclock them and get more kind of performance out of both, although you will get more performance out of the Intel side, so you may be able to claw back some of the margin in multi-threaded applications if you do overclock. But either way, they're selling this bundle with the Cooler Master Hyper 212 Evo cooler and the 16 gigs of Corsair Vengeance RAM for £714, whereas their current bundle, as at the time of filming, isn't listed. It will be by the time you watch this video, so feel free to take a look at the links to check out pricing, you know, when you watch this. But the bundle for the 2600X is, I think, somewhere between £400 and £450 for the configuration that I have here, which is actually not bad, and means that you're looking at a kind of delta of about £250 for the i5, or £250 more for the i5 over the Ryzen 2600X. So what's the conclusion here then? Well, for me, I think it's pretty simple. If you're just gaming and you want the best experience you can get for that sort of money, then go for the 9600K. It's a better gaming CPU and you have more overclocking headroom, so you can claw back some of that multi-threaded kind of performance losses. With that said though, it is 50% more expensive than the Ryzen chip, and even if you were to take the GTA benchmark as the only benchmark you care about, with the 37 or 37.5% faster for Intel, you're still paying 50% more for 37.5 more performance, right? And if you look at the rest of the games, you're paying 50% more for 10% more performance. So it can be a little bit harder to justify. Of course, if you're picking up the Ryzen chip, you're gonna have a great time with a lot of things. You're gonna have a great time still with gaming, not as fast, but you'll have a good time with it, and you'll be able to do stuff like video editing. You'll be able to do stuff like rendering and 3D modeling and a whole load of other stuff, streaming as well, actually. Generally speaking, a bit better than the Intel chip. And the most important thing is that because you have an extra £250 in your pocket, you can buy the tier up graphics card from the one that you were gonna get, which means that you'll end up with better FPS performance in games because you have a better graphics card. So it's I think that would be my main conclusion, at least in terms of pricing right now. I would go the AMD chip. It seems the most sensible to me, but I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. You've heard mine, I would love to hear yours. Which one of these would you go for if you're picking them up, or if you already have, which one did you go for? Let me know in the comments down below. Now, as I said, if you want to take a look at either of these bundles or buy either of them, customize them or anything else, take a look at the links in the description down below. Once again, thank you to AWD and ASUS for sponsoring this video. As I said, it genuinely does help me in making these videos and keeping going and all that sort of stuff. So thank you massively to those guys, and to you guys for watching and sticking around. Hopefully this video was still enjoyable enough and all that sort of stuff. So as I said, I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you want to support the channel even further, make sure you subscribe for more videos, especially the streaming comparison of these two. And then otherwise, you can check out the rest of the links down below. Plenty of affiliate links, plenty of, there's a great VPN down there, there's Humble Bundle for some cheap games, and a load of other stuff, so go take a look at that too. Otherwise, that's pretty much it. Feel free to take a look at the other videos over there. And otherwise, thanks for watching. We'll see you all in the next video.